No, I have no use for it.
Is anyone from your actually own teams watching, or do you just have other random people wondering it?
I mean,
All of our teams are
dating.
I think you're Jared.
Oh, aren't you special?
Dingus is here to support
He's
us.
here to powerfully
Oh,
impress
thanks,
us.
Dave.
Okay.
Oh, Dingus is here.
Yeah.
Now more people I hate.
We're like gay hair
I know. Wait, I brought her
I only have one, sorry.
Megan will give you her Fitbit.
You too? I'll give you my watch. Your watch? Oh. It might tie his hair back.
This is actually me after a very severe haircut. I don't think it works very well. Seriously, I don't defend anything I say. So. We're replaying the game GF. I let you guys know this.
We're DW.
You guys ready?
We're blocking your identity. We'll be giving you one AC.
Since I've heard both you all, we've heard. So, I'm looking at the wrong battle. Kendrick's not in this round. William Jewell is actually at, right?
Yeah.
This is actually probably really confusing.
You see, I had another round where we were trying to destroy a base, so I'm wondering if you're all just participating in the project with Western.
No, we're just bantering.
Scoot further away from us.
Yeah.
We all have cooties.
We might steal your strategy.
Ew.
Whisper sweet nothings and they can see.
This was nothing in cops.
We should really
I have
start.
to move all the hair.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
ready.
get this shot on the
We're
road so I
gonna
can
get
sleep.
Sorry, I had to get my template. How do you open something you just downloaded on this fancy contraption? In Kansas.
I noticed.
Yeah, you've been in California long enough though.
Oh, California is so much better.
Where's this? Superior.
Click right there.
That there.
Yeah, I had a Mac.
You did
5
come from the
years,
state
this
that
is so
invented the
different.
Valley Girl culture.
I'm sorry.
You came from the state that invented the Valley Girl culture?
That's true. But I was born and raised in the
Thank you
Silicon
again.
Valley.
No
so
problem.
Oh, so you just
Okay.
came with the people who just like
Now we're waiting on
evil
these
suck
guys.
our souls out.
I came from the state with no soul. That's it. But a hell of a football team.
49ers winning right now?
No, now I'm free, but they got the ball. And
You're just like,
I'm
well, there
officially
goes my
closing my
discussion.
tracker, otherwise I'm gonna keep looking at it.
Fair enough. If you want to shout out updates periodically, I would.
No, that would be wrong.
In between speeches, no?
In between speeches, I'll be reading my flow.
Is everyone ready?
It won't be. Yeah, you got it.
Observation 1 is resolutional analysis. The 1 point is a resolution. The United States federal government should implement a policy banning assault weapons and/or restricting ammunition magazines of no more than 10 rounds. The second point is judging criteria argument which is net benefits, which is the best role posed to the plan by the effects. So when you go for the third part is all definitions should be finding section. Observation 2 is the background. First, the federal assault weapons ban was lifted in 1994 to 2004. It actually came out, it went away in 2004. We the example. This means that it originally banned 19 semi-automatic weapons. It was passed on the idea of the features of it making weapons automatic instead of semi-automatic. The second argument is there's no legal restrictions existing in the status quo. That's the plan. The United States federal government should pass a policy that bans assault weapons and restricts ammunition magazines of no more than 10 rounds. Putting enforcement is normal means.
Arrest.
Advantage number 1 is gun violence. So point A is the uniqueness. Number one argument is the semi-automatic weapon violence is huge in the status quo. There have been over 21% of all murders in the United States have occurred because of semi-automatic weapons in the status quo. And the second argument is it's easy to obtain semi-automatic weapon and extended magazine clips in the United States. You can buy an extended magazine clip online. Additionally, United States permits for semi-automatic weapons are only $100. And even some states don't even have these kind of requirements in the status quo. You also have very easy background checks to get through, which is very easy for someone to own a semi-automatic weapon in the United States. The third argument is that people can also own all sorts of dangerous form of weapons. We have an example of an AP4, which I had to look some photos of giant military, almost military grade assault rifle. Additionally, an AR-1 and AR-15 are also examples of these. They're all very identical to the military grade that our soldiers currently use. Some would be using that. Number one argument under this is the death. The United States able that 3,000 people die a year from these assault weapons. Our argument is this is a unique impact in itself and should not be justified because it's an idea that we live in a society where 3,000 people die a year from a weapon that shouldn't even exist and has no applications outside of killing people. The second argument is called psychological stress. It means that everyday citizens have to live in a world in which shootings can happen and have high magnitude of killing. It's a different kind of agency that happens. Our argument is that when you live in a world where you have these kind of military grade weapons just as average citizens owning them, means we live in a world with a heightened sense of fear, which means it increases things like agency. Our argument is it's impossible to predict the impacts after the question of agency because of the way it affects individuals this way. So point to the solvency. Number one argument is that we resolve this question. Argument the ban actually decreased the assault weapons. It didn't totally get rid of them, but obviously it decreased the amount of them drastically. We saw a decrease in assault weapon violence to tenfold before this time until the status quo was highly because of the ability to resolve gun violence. The second argument is we also have the ability to resolve the question of how individuals interact with the assistance, even if people still own them. The average individual thinks that most people don't have them, which means we resolve the question of psychological stress. The last argument here is the ATF is actually pretty good at locating assault weapons. It's kind of funny to say this, but the ATF actually has the ability to track many of these sales. The problem with status quo is that there's no ban that allows them to do, which is a good reason why we're ahead. Additionally, I say the ban also probably comes to the higher level of funding that comes through just to enforce the fact that the regulation coming into the country is a higher likelihood ability to resolve the 1AC. Advantage number 2 is Mexico. Subpoint 8, the uniqueness of one argument here is that Mexico has strict gun laws in the status quo. I say example, there's only one gun shop in Mexico. Additionally, it's heavily regulated, and they have military personnel, and individuals have to wait up to 8 months and can only purchase handguns in the status quo. This is the rules by the law, but obviously it's not the case. The second argument here is that cartels get their guns from the United States. Since the ban expired, Mexico has actually saw a 225% increase in assault weapons in Mexico and deaths from them. We I see example there's been 68,000 deaths because of this deaths in Mexico, and there's been over 100,000 assault weapons confiscated in Mexico, but 68,000 of them were from the United States. It's a highlight because they're coming from the United States and the status quo. The three argument here is the NRA controls gun policy in the United States. I say examples over 50,000 licensed gun dealers in the United States. Additionally, there's also a large number of gun shows which also go unregulated in the status quo, which means there's a hardline influence of gun manufacturers in the status quo, which means that assault weapon bans can always be sold. The four argument here is that Mexico is becoming a narco state. I see the Los Stados actually have increased in strength in the east and have also gained ground in the west and towards the north. It's a highlight because Mexico has a problem. Additionally, we would have to see many other cartels are also getting traction because the police are going to be able to fight them in the status quo. Subpoint 5 is also assault weapons are actually very helpful. The cartels taking control. When I say the example, the cartels are able to fight the police with the same weapons they would have because they have the assault weapons, which is the reason why a paramilitary force is able to fight a standard military force. It's a high likelihood the cartels are able to use the same weapons, which means they are able to overwhelm the police force by act of terrorism. Arguments that assault weapons are critical because it allows them to have weapons that kill large amounts of police forces at a faster rate. A single cartel member can take on large numbers of police. It's a high likelihood the assault weapons are actually what's causing some of the instability. Subpoint makes the impacts. Number one argument is under this is death. I say about 60,000 people die in cartel violence in the status quo in Mexico a year. The second argument here is also we also have to deal with Mexican stability is inevitable. This we would make the argument that Mexican stability happens when the cartels can actually challenge the government and influence local elections. Our argument is that's part of the problem that's happening in Mexico in the status quo. The cartels are able to then overcome the police force, which means that all shifting questions of politics. The third argument is affects U.S. border policy. Our argument is that many border towns are now seeing an influence of cartels because they're able to overwhelm the Mexican from passing the border, which allows them to have exempt extreme violence. Our argument is change this shifts the uniqueness of all the impacts in debate because it's impossible to tell how the United States would interact in a world where there's narco violence happening on our own soil. Our argument that political questions like this always go out the window because it's a question of how we respond back, and it's just a question of how Texas responds to things like immigration policy, which is a pretty good reason. Our last argument here is there's always risk of civil war, which should cause millions to die. Our argument is that a world which Mexico breaks up the cartels will fight each other, which leads to a large civil war. People will be forced out of lines for security under the threat of the cartel. Our argument is that's part of the problem. The status quo means that Mexico would have a large instability where millions of people will die. Mexico City is one of the biggest cities in the world, which would probably be a big impact about how people could die in this region. So, voices of solvency. Number one argument here is that we resolve this question. One of the reasons why there's such low assault weapons in the status quo during the ban with the United States and sell it to them, which is the easiest access point. The second argument is that many other South American countries don't actually have the access to give it to them. Our argument is all these weapons are coming from the United States. The status quo is very small, so the largest they're being run across the ocean, which is going to high, like could resolve most of the cartel's ability to outgun the paramilitary force. The third argument is the ATF also can control the border for these weapons passing in. It's part of the ban, which would be a reason why we have to really resolve the question of assault weapons in the status quo, because we actually have the ability to enforce a stronger 1AC policy on this.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Let's see what I got here. 1, 2, 3. So this is. Where's that other sheet of paper again?
There are a lot of sheets of paper. I think I have
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I got it. 1, 2, 3, and then case.
Do I need
In
more
order.
sheets for any of them?
You should probably flow critiques straight down. It makes more sense.
Yeah, but I have these tiny enough pieces of paper.
You also have a stack.
Okay. Answer the question.
You also have a huge ass stack.
For a reason. Do you need the background of the case at all?
No.
Alright.
So advantage 1, advantage 2 is after the 3?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Is everyone ready?
I'm ready whenever you are.
Alright. first argument is that Hagel will be elected in the status quo. Little A's, the Democrats are united behind Hagel now. Foster and Schumer just came out and supported and rallied with the Democrats. With little B, is Republicans are divided, but now Republican Einhoff is strongly anti-Hagel because he's the chair of the Armed Services Committee. McCain said that he would not full composition and his opinions are highly respected as the former chair. The links for his economic suspects family after the economy, but not now, especially since the GOP said that they would not said they would compromise on the Dixie dispute as rejection of partisanship, and the second is that the GOP likes Skunk when he switched over to oppose Hagel and in order which means he can rally the base together against Democrats. The third is the plan alienates water Democrats, but especially one for re-election because of control the internal leases the Republicans had to block nomination with the order filibuster on the floor. Second is the nomination goes to Carter and GOP. The Pentagon have asked for him over Hagel. The impacts first that Hagel is stopped China. Carter support pivot policy increasing military forces within Asia and easing allies. Also, the Prime Minister of Japan have reinterpreted the security agreement on the Constitution means that it will be renegotiated. This means that because South Korea is on the war right now with North Korea have increased the amount of defense spending as well as created a drone program of peace. Means that they will first strike. Also, this means this is just proving the military buildup. Next is the China backlashes because Xi Jinping to assert regional authority in order to appease hardline, just because he just got reelected and because there's conflict over Taiwan right now in Japan with the Senkaku Islands. This residual conflict means that he's going to need to make territorial assertions, which means that this escalates quickly to nuclear war in order to appease hardliners, in order to gain access to resources when it's an existential threat by territorial access. That means that it necessarily escalates even to conventional war, would quickly escalate leading to enormous amounts of large-scale weapons being used. This conventional war escalates to nuclear war. We think the nuclear winter blocks out the sun because it kicks up enough dust. Next.
Yeah, can I get a question?
Yeah.
What on earth is the impact of that diss sound? Like, I could not hear most
The
of the
impact is that
internal.
China backlashes because they don't want to increase U.S. military presence in the region and they have hardline response. Is that enough?
China backlashes on against who? Like, what
United States.
specifically is the complex?
United States.
I know, but how do they go to war?
Next. Uniqueness first argument is that federalism and science and the status quo little A's that states have passed. Federal laws in Washington and California, the federal government has allowed this to not enforce. And it's not enforced. Federal differentiation since the election. Second, the national election has distracted attention from statewide policies and links that the plan violates state sovereignty. The states currently have their own gun control regulations, which vary enormously between state to state. You create an enormous federal uniform blanket, which means that you decrease state autonomy. The impacts are that states backlash on immigration issues. Right, Arizona is particularly racist towards Mexicans. We think that this is a good example of this policy where they basically said that you can check anyone's papers who looks like they might be an immigrant. This is incredibly dehumanizing to be taken out of crowd solely based on what someone else perceives could be a race. This is dehumanizing because individuals are isolated based on their ethnic identity, based on what is perceived as their ethnic identity. It means that individuals are incapable of accessing any form of agency when their identity is imposed on them by the government. Additionally, this heavily influences our diplomacy in states where we have strong influence over, specifically Afghanistan. Strong federal policies in Afghan parliament means that lack of representation attracts, which results in fighting and opening up space for the Taliban to infiltrate. This causes backlash of things like women issues where they already have restrictions right now. This is an internal link to dehumanization. You can also that from above where individuals are discriminated against solely based on their gender identification. Second is terrorism, anti-U.S. sentiment, and access to state resources means acquirement and sales of weapons to terrorist organizations. There is no mutually assured destruction when you do not have a geographic area when you don't have a geographic area through which you identify, which means that this quickly escalates to nuclear war. You can classify that from the other dissent. Next. The 50 states and the District of Columbia should pass a policy that bans assault weapons and restricts ammunition magazines of no more than 10 rounds, starting enforcement through normal means again. The 50 states should pass a policy that bans assault weapons and restricts ammunition magazines of more than 10 rounds.
Status.
So, first, this tests the USMG and the resolution, federal versus state policies that are core part of the gun control literature, and states have the authority to restrict under the status quo regulations that are designed to match different regions based on their cultural needs. There is a difference between gun policy in Chicago and gun policy in Wyoming. Additionally, some of the surplus enforcement policies can be folded into permanent programs administered by the state that vary state to state in the status quo, and we can make alignment better with the laws in enforcement, which is punishable by that varies between state politics and toughness on crime. Also, there is a factor in evidence that when they see because the court cases could, the court cases would require a clarification of law to punish a variety of crimes over state lines, and the uniform policy means that we answer all your FEDP warrants, which you don't have any in the one AC, which probably should. Additionally, precision in states far from legal rule, there's precedent because the state far from legal ruling via the court, modeling, which means that they have precedent to do this, like the DC handgun ban, like to Chicago increasing restrictions. Next.
Can you go back to the politics and say Senkaku Islands
Chemical violence is the escalation scenario in politics. Okay. Advantage
No, I actually explain it. They'll escalate over this in chemical violence.
Yeah, that's the territorial dispute that I'm talking about. They'll escalate over this chemical violence because the U.S. has an active weapon in the region. This is perceived as a territorial issue, which is an issue of existential threat. Okay, next. Advantage one. First, that because you articulate defenses are incredibly easy to buy by the open internet, which means that it's impossible to regulate effectively. Additionally, you admit that you create a mask on your solvency scenario because you see that people will think that individuals don't have the guns, which means that when an attack inevitably happens after the 1AC passes because people will still be guns off the black market, then the sense of fear exponentially increases in total literature 1AC because people will think they're safe. At least they know now that what they can prepare for, which means that you know what to expect when you go to a dangerous place. Additionally, this is incredibly classist and racist white liberals who are the individuals who typically don't want guns, but they know what it's really like to need a gun for protection, which means that if you're a poor kid who wants to protect yourself legally, you just die instead because the government wants to control who is capable of accessing these guns, which means that this is symptomatic of our legal system is broken. You're capable of solving this also. Citizens don't own guns, and then we can't overthrow corrupt regimes, which means that individual sense of autonomy is decreased. This internally linked advantage one. Also, gun regulations don't work. You can make them with a 3D printer, and you can make a rail gun with strong magnets and electricity, and your solution to regulate fails and Jogo approves, then the law can't stop people from taking goods across borders, especially when they're in force. Also, gun ownership teaches people how to safely use a gun. It's very similar to the outsense versus protected sex and education debate. Also, you can't solve because you create the wrong kind of culture shock. There are so many guns in society that we need to know how to change. We need to know how to change how we view guns in order to decrease the incentive to use them. However, you threaten gun owners should change what it means to. You don't change what it means to own a gun. They radicalize instead. This is like the Second Amendment has transitioned between civilian militia to protect for protection to entitlement. This is a cultural issue, not a legal issue. You attack the symptom, but you don't actually attack the change. Advantage two. First term, New President of Mexico elected recently has his own plan to fight the cartels to solve corruption without attacking the cartels first. This means the plan decreases the relation with the Mexican government because it looks like you're at and border cooperation becomes impossible. This means that the Mexican government is unwilling to cooperate with us in the future. Additionally, our government gives guns to Mexico under an agreement because of corruption. They often get sold on the black market. After the black market makes all your arguments difficult. Also, the U.S. doesn't directly affect Mexican policy, which means that the 1AC is incapable of controlling this unless you do it effectually, which we would actually expect predictability and bad for dissent strength of dissent leads to competitiveness of plan, especially which are coordinated from the LLC is necessary to generating clash, which is necessary for education. Also, black market is inevitable, especially on forest borders in Russia and Latin America and South America. All give weapons means your impacts are inevitable and incentives to traffic weapons happen with trafficking people and drugs and organs, which means that your impacts are inevitable and gun fanatics are increasing purchases in the status quo. Gun records have increased a record number as a result of Colorado and Connecticut shootings, which means that just because people perceive the gun regulations are coming, which means that in response to your 1AC, gun purchases will increase.
Okay. Advantage one, advantage two, counterplan, federalism, all of that.
No, I think there's another piece.
Sorry, I'm going to say again.
Yeah, sure. Advantage one, advantage two, counterplan, federalism.
Question, is it hard to hear from across the room?
I mean, it was just kind of hard to
I'm
hear.
gonna move over because I don't hear particularly well.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, I'm ready now.
Ready? Sorry, my timer just reset. Ready?
Yep.
Group all the arguments in advantage one, and couple all the arguments will answer the majority of this. The one is problems executive orders to solve all the problems with the enforcement of the U.S. And all these problems are descriptive of the status quo a few weeks ago, but not in the world. Plus the executive orders, the ACE point, the executive order increased the ability for the ATF to actually monitor the gun purchases. This means that this is the argument we make the solvency indicates today. We'll be able to track the guns put together. It's simply a question of being able to stop them indicates that. We'll overcome all the solvency with the BASIS point today. More interagency communication, which will be able to solve that. For all the enforcement loopholes that we talk about indicates this. We'll be able to do this with the CASE point. You can see that ATF has total control of the border. It's simply a question of the guns that are taken across and sold legally by the U.S. government indicates only in this world the affirmative can be solved back on the line by line. They say that you will still the back part of the internet. I would say the executive orders want to be able to solve back this issue. The ban will still apply to the internet as well, and we also think that the increased ATF tracking will be able to solve back to the black market that they talk about. This argument can be applied to all the other times they make this argument across the globe. You say that people fear more because there's no gun to protect them. The one is the only reason why they need guns in the first place because they think that other people have guns. This indicates we solve it. Causes security security for the people. The second argument is going to be that we'll be able to solve back the mindset of fear by ensuring they do not necessarily think that the next person has guns. And additionally, if we win that there is a decrease in crime, that will mean that this impact doesn't even happen. As you say, term because the classes, the ones that you do not know our social economic status indicates you can what?
That's not the argument. Their argument is classes to say that, like, the poor people who need the guns, right?
Yeah, there is no reason why poor people necessarily need to think that would link in the class because it assumes that they live in a particularly like violent and problematic world that you would say that there's literally no internal link that this are. Rhetoric does not engage in any sort of classes position. We would say that we'll build solve backward by ensuring that these people are not living in public. Like if other people don't have guns, there's not a need for them to have guns either. Indicates we will solve the internal link to this argument. There's no voter in classes, no independent reason to reject this forward. You say that we can't overthrow corrupt regimes. We do not have to make this argument. Or arguments people stop the internal sale of guns. Indicates we still get solved the issues. Say that they can make guns and home arguments that these are probably not going to be particularly effective. The issue we ban the sale of things like the ammunition, which is necessary to actually fire the guns. Indicates that is the only thing that matters. This issue say that you can stop the guns going across the borders. We've already made the ATF argument, and you can say that education solves all guns. People still have sex, even though this absence of education probably means that this doesn't happen. And education exists right now. People still get killed from the misuse of guns. Indicates that this is completely not true. This you say you can't change culture, but you conceded all the subject arguments about how this would change the interaction, and culture is really irrelevant in the world. There's no guns to shoot people with, so we get total solvency advantage too. You make the argument that this would kill Mexican relations to one, and only argument even this would really help Mexican relations with the new Mexican president is calling for increased U.S. presence to actually help to stop back against this issue. He has blamed the U.S. for continuing selling guns like we did in the Fast and Furious scandal, which would be a reason why this will always accuse relations by us not aiding the cartels anymore. Did she say the government gets guns? Yeah, we banned the sale of arms, so that affects the U.S. government too. Did she say the black market sellers have already answered ATF solved this? Did she say that U.S. doesn't affect Mexico policy? This somehow three argument. The one is we do not make this in our plan. It's simply ramification of our solvency. So our counter interpretations that the affirmative gets the claim claim solvency for impacts or not directly related to the affirmative. The 2 point is this is going to be the most revoked no policy exists in the vacuum, rather as the ramifications of the fact the rest of the world indicates that this would ultimately the argument is going to be this better for education. Is that doesn't mean we just focus on education in the United States, we focus on how our policies actually affect the rest of the world. Indicates that this law is going to be for biggest better global citizens. They should say the gun record is going up now. These advanced bills stop. But one argument is that the ATF will be able to solve back that even if people already have guns, it's not a question of that people who are going to get new guns in the future. We will be able to solve back that through all of these through the executive orders. We will solve the entirety of the affirmative. Yeah, I think you have to go on. Okay, 50 states. What is permutation? People at the ACE point is permutation absolutely possible. There's absolutely no reason why the states and federal government can't act at the same time. Additionally, side the fact that they've passed a lot of environmental reforms of the EPA and at the state level at the same time indicates permutation is absolutely possible. The beast point is permutation to solve the this at the one. I'm sworn under this would solve back for any political backlash due to reviews of sweeping mandate on policy instead. So with Obama and the Democrats would be doing indicates that there would be no backlash. The second argument that it wouldn't lead to any state backlash. The states would be involved in the decision making and enough of the backlash on because they're mirroring the federal government indicates this would solve the entirety of the dissent. The second argument would be no solve the states will simply refuse to enforce multiple states. Governors such as Alabama and Arizona have commented that they would not enforce any assault weapon bans. Indicates the entire cases they decided the counterpart the second and third arguments will return that this is justify increased state control over guns which causes rollback. The entirety of the counterplan argument is this put forward to create the precedent the states have more control over gun policy which allow them to pass individual regulations saying things like background checks no longer needed, which would be a reason why gun also massively increased support of this. Indicates the entire affirmative is a solvency deficit to the counterplan. So federalism. What is uneven because there's no federalism existing on federal now because Obama just passed 23 executive orders on increasing federal power. That's intuitive arguments to take up the entire side too. Is none of these already passed background checks in which the federal government has oversight over the purchasing of guns indicates it's already federal authority. 3 is none is not because ATF has already increased their authority over the gun purchasing tracking indicates the federal government already has more authority. 4 is federal immigration reform would always be able to stop back because Marco Rubio is actually going to pass a new immigration reform which will make illegal all the Arizona and other racist state policies. But the 5 is Arizona already has racist immigration policies. No, you need to impact when we turn the weak federal power is actually going to be being divorced state abuses because the will of the federal government does not increase power. It means the state government have more authority to pass really racist immigration regulations. Indicates that your impact happens. So without federal power, 7 is Taliban's already high right now because extreme recruitment's actually increased and there have been an increased number of deaths and attacks that happened over the past year. Indicates Taliban recruitment is the impact. The last arm is going to be Afghanistan. It's not allowed the United States because since United actually we passed we made the Citizens United Court decision. Afghanistan did not change their election practices. Indicates there's absolutely no risk of modeling here. No risk of this impact. Gut check time is this. That is not true anymore after the executive orders. Politics. One's going to be the Hegel. One is going to be the impact term. The Hegel's going to be really bad. The ace point is Hegel said he wants to decrease nuclear arsenal by 80%. Also get rid of all U.S. ICBMs, which would be a massive decrease U.S. deterrent to peace points. This would be absolutely critical to our deterrence. Development is critical to our missile defense system and our moving line of boards. This is also key to agreements with our allies, because if we get rid of ICBMs, that means that we will not have those ICBMs that are located strategically around other countries' peace points. This always causes Turkey proliferation. That's because we have a ton of ICBMs within Turkey that removed the need for them to actually engage in proliferation themselves. However, Turkey will have to start proliferating the arms where we get rid of ICBMs at these points. This would cause a massive war of instability in the Middle East. We think that this arms race that would come from would always cause miscalculation, which would lead to nuclear deterrence, nuclear miscalculation, because we think that Russia would never allow Turkey to engage in proliferation because it would be far too close to the borders, indicates that would lead to a massive war. We also think that multiple great powers fighting, you can extend how multiple great powers fighting will cause a nuclear extinction that will second order return. That Hegel's actually really bad for Israel. The ace point is there. Hegel's been really weak on Iran. He said that we should engage in negotiations with Iran, get rid of the sanctions with the peace point. As the Israeli parliamentary speaker said, that this would be a huge slap in the face, and the biggest thing Obama's done to hurt Israeli relations ever with the cease point is Hegel's confirmation would always cost Israel a first strike. This because Netanyahu said that he wants to strike, but he's not going to now because he's trying to wait for the United States to deal with it through sanctions and to cooperate, sanctions and through hardline sanctions to Iran. However, and it will, which you see this breaking down, he will have to instantly first strike. This will be the fastest attack from the entire debate. At these points, this causes a massive war because U.S. and Russia both security guarantees with Israel and Iran. You'll have to get involved in order to stop this conflict spending the extended nuclear exchange. That will impact you. But the next arm is go down to their impacts. The one is the Dialo Islands will be able to solve right now because the U.S. is actually engaging in mediation with them. The Dialo Island conflict indicates there's absolutely no risk of conflict breaking out there. The second arm is going to be that there's no reason for these countries to go to war because it's just posturing in order to help the domestic defenses. There's no real resource in the Dialo Islands to speak of. There's nothing they really need here. The three is that Japan just found a bunch of new fishing supplies off the eastern side of Japan today. Doing that, they can use the Dialo Islands anymore. Indicates there will be no risk. This fourth arm is going to be the new Chinese president. Xi Jinping actually does not care about the Dialo Islands as much as says that China should be focused on trying to engage more constructive engagement. Indicates there's no risk of this. Yeah.
They read also a North Korea scenario.
Yeah, also they say North Korea, the one is the North Korea does not have ICBMs. As per the Pentagon report indicates that nobody would be strike positionally harder, not have enough control over U.S. foreign policy to offer its first strike. You would still have to tell Obama to join the bomb, but still be able to say no to first strike against North Korea. Additionally, South Korea would never get involved in this conflict because Lee Mubarak does not have enough political capital because he's almost on his way out, which means there's absolutely no risk of this. Additionally, our impact terms are far more probable and would happen on a much faster time frame, which is, we're going to be well ahead of that.
The order is going to be advantage 1, advantage 2, then the FISM, then the counter plan, and then the other disad.
Politics.
There we go.
Okay. Not that big thing.
Can I pour your water for a second? No, I still water on my clothes.
I don't know.
Everyone good?
Yep. Advantage 1, advantage 2, wrapped up.
Yeah, advantage 1, advantage 2. Okay. First argument, you say about the executive order means you solve for enforcement, then this is you say the increases in the monitoring capacity, which doesn't necessarily increase the type of technology that they have, or the type of technology that they have in order to do this, or the type or the amount of manpower that the ATF has. This means that it's possible to hack the ATF system multiple times of cyber attacks as soon as possible against the U.S. government. In addition, it also means the ATF personnel are overstaffed because of the massive increase in arms happens as a direct result of the plan. Katie said this happened after the Connecticut shootings, which means it's going to be overstretched. No, solving in the short term makes people think that it may simply makes the problem worse because people think the government's capable of solving back. This just means that guns have people increasing, and then we'll roll that happens next. I want the argument that the ATF doesn't have a time frame, which means that our impact of the disband is always going to happen before this. You say that you're capable of solving with the security telling me there's something that's inferior, classified from above, or you can't solve a form from crimes because things are illegal like drugs. We still have them, which means that only criminals will have guns. People are still going to fear criminals, which simply makes things worse because when we see someone that we think is a criminal like Trayvon Martin, we're probably going to still try to shoot them. And we shoot them, which people are still going to want to have guns. And next, you say that you say they solve for the internal sale of guns, and you solve for the internal sale of guns, you solve the totality of the problem. This simply isn't true. We have still have sales of guns and other types of in other types of ways. We still sell guns. Advantage 2. Our question, like Katie's second argument, which says the currency we give guns to the government of Mexico in order to use in their military. Because the corruption in the military right now, these 75% of these guns get distributed into different types of cartels. We have found that most of the 68,000 guns that you attributed, about 50,000 of them are simply from the contract that the United States has with the government of Mexico, which means that it isn't going through any underground tunnels between the United States and Mexico. Instead, it's going from our government to each other, and then the cartels. You can't solve for a cartel with the Mexican government, which means you're never capable of solving for this. Next time, you say that there's no verification has to be about rest of the Kind of fun. First, the basic permutation. The permutation is still going to be still going to link to politics disadvantage for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that it doesn't shield the link to the disadvantage. The disadvantage. Two reasons. The first reason is that senators are simply with
On that point?
What?
Yeah, my question's back on advantage too. What is the
go for it.
argument? Sorry, what?
Go
Yeah,
for it.
okay, what's the argument about how we're giving guns to the Mexican government? Because I thought the argument in the LLC was we are giving it to the cartels like from Marco. So what's the clarification?
We give guns to the Mexican military, and they give them to like cartels. They just directly give them.
Okay.
50,000 guns and cartels are from us just giving them to the military, and the military just giving them to the cartels.
Okay. Thank you. That is actually really helpful.
Permutation doesn't shield the link to the it doesn't shield the link to the link to the disadvantage. The GOP is still not going to like guns, even if the states are even if the states vote for this. There's still going to be different people within the state legislatures as well as different people within the federal legislatures are going to happen. This means that simply backlash happens at the state level, and that there's more political pressure at the state level because citizens in individual states that pay attention to local politics are going to pressure their representatives in Congress in order to in Congress. This increases the public. This decreases public. This means that the public does not like the permutation. The public doesn't like it. I don't. Maybe. Okay, scratch everything I just said. I'll get there later.
Why aren't you going to follow me?
We'll go to politics.
So you scratch all the arguments.
I'm scratching all of the arguments. I'll get back. Okay. Can you write CPD?
Yeah.
Okay. First turn, you say Halo Vatican's nuclear the nukes by 8%. We articulate that this is going to be good nuclear. The nuclear buildup within the status quo is what's caused different countries to have armed because they do the United States as being an ideological threat to them. When the United States has weapons, it means that they're going to what weapons they return at the point where we go family, a couple of countries and countries and all the countries that are enemies of them are going to be capable of getting this arms that means increased possibility for miscalculations as well as increased possibility of bad technology, the lack of security which causes losing weapons, which increases terrorism, which is then prevented by mutually assured destruction, which means the big impact of the great round. You say the decreases in turrets and ICBM, the missile defense isn't uniquely key to this, isn't uniquely key to this point. We're also decreasing nuclear arsenal with Hegel. They're going to be able to fall back to this. You say war of instability within the Middle East, but our conventional forces within the Middle East are still strong enough to be able to fall back. That means that there's no proliferation and a security guarantee means that this is going to happen. The only risk of miscalculation is there an increase of proliferation because as a direct result of hegemony. Furthermore, when Hegel goes into position, the majority of the people that are within the department are still going to be layovers from the previous administration. This is going to have a complementary policy, which means they're going to negotiate between things to come to a compromise between the two ideas, which means it's probably not going to be as bad as your claim is going to be. Whereas the Carter was elected, it was still the Republicans, hardliner Republicans within the department as well as heading it, which means there's an increased possibility for violent reaction. You say Israel? First argument, there's no possibility for an Israeli first strike. Netanyahu as well as their top general in the military a couple of months ago came out and said that they were going to strike on a second Iran. They don't think that it would be politically feasible for them because they don't want to alienate their allies as well as the United States. They don't think this because of the way the United States reacted to the UN did or Israeli nationhood and such. Furthermore, currently Israel is in the middle of an election. Netanyahu is trying to appeal to the middle instead of appealing to the far right of his campaign. This means he's probably not going to attack the short-term enemies. Probably not going to attack at all because he needs the cooperation in order to be able to maintain political power within the parliament. And next, you say war because Russia and the United States war. This isn't true. In war with Iran, we have enough weapons to be able to strike and destroy the nuclear facilities within Iran, which means that security guarantee means it wouldn't escalate and we would completely dominate Russia within the war because we have our fleet near that means we're going to be able to solve. Okay. Their impact defense. You say mediation solving within the status quo. This isn't true. The United States when the United States came and said that they supported the current government of Japan over the Senkaku Islands, and they continually call them the Senkaku Islands, trying to use this as a front of their dignity, which means that they're not going to be willing to negotiate with the United States. In addition, you say two simply posturing and Japan found a new kind of fish. This isn't true. This is a show of national identity, which is at the heart of the politics of both of those countries who are trying to emerge within the world power. And if they're going to go to war, they are threatened to do this within the past, and they signal they view this as a signaling issue. China doesn't react to the Senkaku Islands. They think that their hard power will decline, but it's substantially, which means there's only a risk that the other countries will begin to attack them. It's a try or die scenario with them. You say that Xi Jinping doesn't care about this. This isn't true. Xi Jinping is trying to pass economic reforms in China, which means he needs to, which is not popular with the far right, which means he needs to appeal to them in some way, and
we do their
Oh, sorry. What was their turn?
justifies state people.
What was
It justifies more background. I mean, it's just a solid steps.
Solving is the counter plan. No argument about conditionality means no turn for the counter plan. Where does we kick it? It's not competitive. Friends of competition. Okay. We're not going for the North Korea scenario. Look, the situation within the islands has every probability of escalating if Carter, if Carter is appointed, the defense, the secretary, what's it called? The Secretary of Defense. This outweighs on magnitude and probability because of the implications of national identity and the threats that have happened before means that China is 100% probable to be able to do this. In addition, this has the shortest time frame because it would be viewed as the first one to strike would have an advantage, which means that escalation has to spread fully. Furthermore, this outweighs on magnitude because the war between the United States and China inevitably goes nuclear and leads to extinction because of the disparity between the armed forces.
Okay. Advantage 2, advantage 1, politics. Everyone ready?
I can just finish.
Okay.
Okay. Advantage 1, advantage 2 politics.
Advantage 2, advantage 1, politics. It may seem like a good idea to try to solve this problem, but your 1AC is not the right solution. I just don't think you're capable of fixing a problem with Mexico by stopping one type of arms sale domestically. You can see an argument that says that we give guns to the Mexican military. This is a problem of corruption in the Mexican this is a problem of corruption in the Mexican government and the Mexican military. We give our guns to them. We don't sell them, we give them to them. These exact type of weapons that you are talking about banning. We give them to them, and they just give them away. We do this with other types of guns. It is not, the problem is corruption. The problem is not we sell guns to our people. You are incapable of resolving the problem of corruption within Mexico, which means that this violence is absolutely inevitable. 50,000 guns from the US go to cartels every single year. That is enormous. 75% of all of the guns that the US just gives to Mexico go to the cartels. Violence is absolutely inevitable in a world of the black market and in a world where corruption is so prevalent that the military just gives guns away to the cartels. You can't solve this. Your 1AC doesn't even get close. Also, advantage 1. You can see several arguments that I think are incredibly important. First is that only criminals are going to be the ones who have guns in a world of your app. Insofar as individuals who want to be legally protected think that this is no longer a means by which they can protect themselves, but it means that individuals are not going to use the black market in order to protect themselves. This means that when you walk into a dangerous area in the status quo, you know what you're getting into, which means that you know exactly what you need on you in order to be safe. However, in a world of the plan, you don't have that option anymore. Now you are flying solo, you are flying blind, and you are unprotected. Additionally, your 1AC is incapable of solving the culture surrounding other types of guns, which means that the most effective types of guns for protection, especially in places where individuals need the protection, they are incapable of accessing those types of guns. But all other types of guns still exist, like either your affirmative can solve this type of guns and only criminals get them, or your affirmative doesn't solve the culture of guns at all because other types of guns still exist. Either way, your affirmative doesn't solve. Okay, additionally, okay, but with the solvency of the 1AC called into question, 1% risk of a link to the DISAT independently outweighs any risk that you have of solving the 1AC. The time frame of the 1AC?
This is the ATF doesn't solve immediately.
Oh, yeah, okay. Also, the ATF doesn't solve immediately. You have, the ATF only has a limited number of resources, especially since you can see an argument that gun sales have gone up exponentially since the Colorado and Connecticut shootings because gun fanatics think that more regulations are coming. Then it means that the ATF is overstretching the status quo, and they're going to be only more overstretched in the world of your plan. They don't have the manpower, and they're vulnerable to hacking to low cybersecurity. This means that there's only a risk that they are incapable of controlling, which is a vulnerability to the black market, also to legal guns that currently exist. You also consider an argument that says that we can make guns like rail guns with electricity and magnets. DISAT turns the case in a world of war. Violent psychology increases the turn turns advantage 1 and advantage 2. All violence becomes inevitable in a world where you don't resolve the psychology behind this. We say that it also turns advantage 2 because if the U.S. goes to war, we don't focus on domestic issues or on cartels. We are incapable of resolving issues of domestic violence or issues of cartels. We are incapable of solving the domestic culture of guns in a world where we are at national war and where we are at nuclear war. If Carter is elected if Carter is appointed to Security of Defense, then we think this will necessarily escalate to an issue of China trying to take on regional hegemony through territorial disputes. You can see several internal links that say that this is an issue of national identity, which means that it escalates very quickly. Our time frame is nearly immediate after the appointment of Carter, which means that it quickly escalates to nuclear war. You can see all the internal links that say nuclear war means extinction. That is game over, independently outweighs your app.
Okay. It's gonna be float overview. Add to politics.
Advantage 1.
Okay. Alright, float overview, advantage 2, advantage 1, politics. I don't get it. That's a lot.
You're not going to rearrange the room before you talk?
This debate obviously comes down to a question of who would win the impact on politics. We were winning arguments to think about why China will never freak out. We freak out. We isolate defensive arguments that this is just posturing. They don't respond back to this argument that there's a posturing with Japan and China has superpowers. That argument is probably just intuitively true for the countries posture military forces all the time. That argument gives us 100% probability, drops their probability of their impact scenarios in nuclear war to 0 because it's not responded. There's just a risk that we get access to our stories. On advantage 2. Extend across mass arguing back to this question of Mexico. We make the argument that we would still ban the selling of guns to Mexico, which would be a reason why if we resolve on these Mexican questions. That just goes dropping into beer and it's a highly good there's no turn. Also means we would argue that we change the political question, which means that's the impact story of the war. A Mexican instability changes the political question, probably also changes the impacts of Hegel, which means that if I win, I'll lose the rest of the impact of debate. This is still an easy out for you because we make the argument anyone they see that Mexican instability changes American politics. That argument never gets responded to. That is a deadly job for them because it means it's impossible to know the impacts of politics in a world in which we win this advantage. That's the only term they go for Mexico.
On advantage 1, they extend the culture fear argument that do not extend an impact to it.
They don't extend the impact of the culture fear argument. Politics is highly could not resolve this question.
Hold defense.
Ticks. I want Matt's first turn. Their first argument against this argument is they actually think it's able to increase the security of the prisoner's dilemma because we actually increase our. My first response back to this is that we actually did Russia still nuclear weapons, which means other countries have still have incentive to proliferate the status quo. Actually, China still nuclear weapons gets a higher, like they're proliferating in the world after the United States because other countries have an increase of nuclear weapons. They're not willing to argue about how they increase the great powers of nuclear weapons. They just see an opening, which would be a reason why specifically proliferate would increase in the world after the world they see because other countries then would increase their nuclear weapons because they're no longer having to compete with the United States because that indicates a high likelihood that this would be inevitable in the world sphere. Next argument is the MMD is not create a nuclear deterrence. That doesn't respond to our scenario. Our arguments that ICBMs are in Turkey in the status quo, and Turkey would proliferate the status quo in a war so they don't have the ICBMs, which is our argument that Hegel actually contracts that. And the status quo, which means that Turkey proliferates probably inevitable in a world in which we don't have nuclear weapons. There gets a higher likelihood that we're ahead on this question. You sit across mass up and see on this that Turkey needs the US ICBMs to make them feel secure in the region. It gets a higher likelihood that we're ahead on this. Their next argument. Their next argument is we have forces in the region. We have a couple of responses back to them. That's not true. We know our forces in the region, Turkey, are things like nuclear missile silos in status quo. It gets a higher likelihood that this doesn't resolve the question of Turkey. Additionally, it doesn't resolve the question of how Russia reacts in the world. Turkey proliferates in the status quo because they're seen as enemies against each other. It's a higher likelihood that Turkey would all have a freak out of Russia, which means our forces couldn't resolve that problem. Next argument is security guarantees. Check this. The part of our security guarantees with Turkey is that we keep our nuclear weapons there to make them feel safe. This is an old Cold War guarantee. And it gets a higher likelihood that Turkey would freak out because we violate their security guarantee with us. Their next argument, probably the best, is that he doesn't have the ability to actually affect policy. That's not necessarily true. Hegel would be ahead of, the head of the Nuclear Weapons Security.
Nuclear Weapons Commission.
Nuclear Weapons Commission, which means that he'd be able to overwhelm this question. If he firmly believes it's a 4/5 decrease, which relates to Boston debate around probably it's a high likelihood to be able to affect nuclear policy in the status quo, which means we're way ahead of the proliferation. Listen, their argument, the time frame that this has immediate. That's probably not true. Our argument is that that probably takes a while. There's a question of things like posturing and how Japan probably won't react. If we win any of those defensive arguments, the Turkey freakout scenario is way faster because that's one of the first things that Hegel wants to do is pull nuclear weapons, get rid of ICBMs, which means that we have a way faster scenario on this question because Turkey probably would be immediate as part of their security guarantees.
Let's extend the defense
on Israel. Extend across their argument that Israel would not care because they're in the middle of election season. Probably destroys all of their offense. Drop out of the Daegu Island, in fact. I want the argument that Daegu Island negotiations are happening in the squad. they have a response. Their response back to this is that the United States is not a supporter said that we support Japan. That's cool. That's also true. Hillary Clinton is currently last week met with the Chinese officials about the issue of the islands. And that's cool. It's a closed door negotiation, which means it's probably a highlight because their argument they care about Chicago. That's probably not true. China probably is not going to be backlash because of questions like what they call them. It's probably going to be a question about whether they have ability. Additionally, numerous state runs have Chinese news sources have also called for the United States to be an arbiter because highly because if any talks are happening, being resolved in the status quo, which means the status quo resolves your impact. Next, I want Matt's number 2 argument. Matt's number 2 argument. No reason to give why they go to war. We are arguing that this is just posturing between the two countries. We get the high, like the Chinese try to flex their military might in the status quo, which means you have a higher impact on the scenario. Which means there's a question about how if there's any question about how China reacts or Japan reacts. It's not a question. It goes the direction because arguments these are military posturing. It's like war games. All arguments that's defective. This is because it talks about these are just nationalist posturing. They're not resolving this question. There's no risk of a Chinese backlash to the status quo because it would just be a posturing backlash.
It's the argument that Xi Jinping needs right-wing support.
Their next argument is that Xi Jinping needs right-wing support. One and non-highlight true he ran as a moderate media probably has highlight to resolve this question. The second argument is Sim has argument that Japan found new supplies of oil, which means he needs the moderate support because it's found new oil supplies in Japan, which would be a reason why Japan would promote the status quo. We would isolate the example that well, Japan has new oil supplies. They don't need to be active nationals to resolve the problems. Instead, they can act the idea that they found oil supplies probably better political balance than being nationalists. Anything else you want?
Just our impact.
Listen, our impact happens first for a couple of reasons. Theirs requires China to freak out. Ours requires Turkey, which has nuclear weapons there, to freak out immediately. We'll probably have that.
They would always talk about how we debated each other.
Finally have.
There's layers, and it's not just like hands sliding. It's kind of gross.